Slnko. Tie malé radosti života v karanténe. Zoberte si kávu, ak máte, alebo nejaký iný dobrúčky nápoj, lebo teraz pokračujeme s ďalšou druhou epizódou nášho podcastu A Couple to Go. Táto epizóda bude o modelingu, o cestovaní ako modelka, čo to obnáša, aký má modeling dopad na mentalitu, na psychiku a celkovo také backstage veci, ktoré by ste možno ani nepovedali, že sa dejú v modelingovej industrii. Áno, aj táto časť je po anglicky, Michael sa ešte stále nenaučil slovensky. Ale začína, snaží sa, už je povedať pár slov.
Welcome to A Couple to Go, the podcast where we openly explore topics of the likeness of culture,
society,
travel,
sexuality,
science,
love,
and more. Taboo is a word that doesn't exist here. My name is Natalia, and with my lovely boyfriend Michael,
what's up?
We often find ourselves debating over various subjects for hours, and then thinking, this could have been a podcast. So here we are. Grab a cold brew or a cold one, and we hope you'll enjoy our little show. Yeah, this intro is way better.
What do you mean you're criticizing my intro from last time already?
Oh, no. But you said politics, for example, and even though we're not gonna shy away from topics like politics, this is not really a news channel. It's more about our personal interest and...
Definitely not a news channel. It's all good. So welcome to the second iteration of our podcast. And today we have a very interesting topic that's very close to us because it's kind of how we met. So take it away.
Kind of is completely how we met.
Well, I was on a modeling trip. You weren't.
Okay, that's true. I came back from a modeling trip.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of led to...
Okay.
You see what I mean? Okay.
You're right.
So.
Yeah, today's topic is gonna be traveling as a model. And we're gonna get into that soon. I just want to start with something first. Where are my notes?
So...
I wrote this down somewhere. Jesus. Okay, I can't find my notes, but I have it here, in my head. I went over the dream several times in my memory, and now I will remember it.
You got this, baby.
Yeah, so we had a horrible night today. I don't know why, but we couldn't fall asleep at all.
Yeah, and I'm not the type of person that tends to stay in bed for very long when I can't fall asleep. So at some point I kind of got up and I started watching a show. And I ended up falling asleep on the couch, and she eventually fell asleep in the bedroom.
Don't worry, we didn't have an argument, we just couldn't fall asleep. Michael didn't sleep on the couch because I was mad at him. It was a personal choice. Yeah, anyway, when I finally was able to fall asleep, I had a super weird dream. I have usually very weird dreams, but this one was just so funny, I need to tell you. And I was like, this is so funny, I need to share it in the podcast, and I'm gonna wait and tell you now.
Yeah, I did not hear about that dream yet.
Okay, so I was dreaming that I was back in high school. I have that dream often. I don't know. It's a trauma.
Yeah,
high school was traumatizing.
High school is a recurring trauma.
High school was super traumatizing for me. Jesus. It was also some good times, but also some very bad times. Anyway, I was back in high school, and it wasn't like me being put back into my old high school teenage body, but it was me from right now suddenly being back at high school. And we were writing a test from physics and literature.
Physics and literature. That's a good combination right there.
Yeah, it was one test. Combination, physics and literature.
Okay.
And the teacher that was writing the test with us, that was supervising us, was my old geography teacher.
Hey, that's one way to save time on tests during coronavirus exams.
What? Why?
I was making a joke. Like combining tests to save time.
Oh.
Combining topics.
Oh. Haha. Oh, see? I didn't sleep enough. If I would have slept enough, I would have got this joke. Okay, so we had this test. And because I was suddenly teleported back into high school, I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what they learned, what were the topics that were supposed to be on the test. So I had like 5 minutes of a break before the class was starting, and I was with a classmate, and she was trying to explain me the most she could before the test. And then the teacher came in, and she was handing out the tests.
Handing out, yeah.
Handing out the tests. And then suddenly I turned around, and I see my ex sitting in behind one of the tables in the class.
Okay.
So he was suddenly there, and he was one of my classmates in the dream.
Okay.
He looked super nervous, and I was just looking at him, and he was like, shaking and stuff, and he looked like he needs to say something, but he can't. So I just yelled at him through the whole classroom when the teacher was there, "What's up? What's going on?" And he turned around and like, "Natalia, I need to tell you something, but I can't. I need to write this test first." And I'm like, "Just say it." Nobody's listening.
Okay.
In a classroom full of people, I'm saying this.
You're getting a very close insight on how Natalia's dreams work. They don't work, but yeah, okay.
There is some kind of logic, but you need to look for it really intensely. And he replied like, "Oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe if I get this out of my mind, I'm going to be able to concentrate better on the test." And then he turned around to me and like he stood up. And then he said, "I'm breaking up with you."
What the fuck? Where does that come from?
So yeah, in the dream, he was still my boyfriend. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I was just like, what? What the fuck? Now? And now I'm supposed to write this test?
So that was your dream?
No. That's not the crazy part of the dream.
Another insight on Natalia's dream. They last for very, very long.
If you wouldn't interrupt me all the time, I would be already finished.
Keep going then.
Okay, so I was just sitting there, and I was like, what the fuck? Okay, the teacher gave me, then she came to me, had all the tests out, and then she looked at me and like, "Natalia, do you feel like you need to discuss this right now? Do you feel like you need to have a conversation with your boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or whatever at that time so you can concentrate?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." So I went over to his table, and he was like, "Yeah, I wanted to break up with you after we have that test." Okay. And I had a whole plan prepared. I wanted to break up with you in a nice way. He told me that he got a possibility of an acting job. Okay. As a folklore dancer, because my real life ex-boyfriend was a folklore dancer. Yeah. Like a part of a folklore dance group in Slovakia. And he got invited to this casting to New York. Okay. And he could bring some extra people with him. So I was like, "Yeah, it sucks that I have to break up with you, but I thought I could at least give you something back by bringing you to New York. And, wait for it, with a guy that I think you are interested in." And then he turned and pointed at one of my classmates. Okay. And he was like, "Don't you find this guy hot?"
Okay, yeah. I gotta say, before that part, the dream just sounded like a big metaphor for like the test is basically a metaphor for your trip to Japan.
What? Why?
Because, as you said, you wanted to break. You wanted to wait
for Korea.
Korea, sorry, yeah. You wanted to wait, for the test to be over to tell you. But you wanted to do it in a nice way, but then you couldn't because something happened. So it's like a whole metaphor.
Yeah. If you know what we are talking about right now, you need to listen to the first episode of our podcast. Basically, this situation kind of describes our breakup, but there was no casting or something to New York. That part is complete bullshit.
So Natalia's dream actually creates a bridge between last episodes and this current episode. Welcome.
Natalia's dreams are actually connecting to real events. What a surprise! How dreams do! But yeah, and suddenly the whole classroom was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. That guy is really hot." Like, girls in the class started talking to each other. "Oh yeah, you're right. He is really hot." And even the teacher from geography, she was like, "Yeah, right. If I would be a young girl your age, I would also think that he's hot."
Did you get peer pressured into dating a random guy in your class? Oops.
And I was just, feeling so weird. And then the guy that he was mentioning came up and he was like, yeah, that would have been actually really nice. I would love to go to New York with you. And then all these people from all sides were just like, oh yeah, go to New York with him and stuff. And then I realized that, wait, didn't we already break up like a year ago?
Insight on Natalia's dream number 3. When she starts waking up, things start to connect with reality and her dreams.
Yeah, I often realize during a dream how dumb and illogical this dream is. And then in the dream, I'm starting to find the real logic. It was actually 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago.
Like 2 years and a half or something?
Yeah, but in the dream, I was like, didn't we break up like a year ago? Wait, I actually have already a boyfriend. Wait, I have a boyfriend in Canada. Oh my god, we are living together. And I told him this in the dream. And before I really woke up after this, my geography teacher just looked at me and said, you are a slut.
Wow. Okay.
So that was my dream.
So, nice introduction to today's podcast. A bit unrelated, but funny nonetheless.
A little flashback to our last episode. Okay, but let's get into today's topic. So, we are going to be talking about traveling as a model, as I already said. And first, I would like to define, though, what this means, because it doesn't mean just casual traveling, but I mean work trips. So there are 2 kinds of traveling related to work as a model. So the first one is direct booking, which means that you get booked directly for a job or for a little amount of jobs somewhere.
The good one. That's the one you want.
Yeah, that's the one who you prefer usually because it's better paid because the people that book you are willing to fly you in from a different place just for this job.
It's basically guaranteed money.
Yes, it's guaranteed money. That's why it's really good. And I, for example, did something like this in Turkey for a commercial. They really, really wanted me for this commercial because of my dancing skills, kind of, because they had a dance scene and I feel like they didn't find enough good dancers. So they flew me in from Slovakia to Istanbul and I was doing this commercial there. I had also the second thing in Istanbul. I was also there for a short stay before that. And that's the second category, short stay or modeling stay, where, yes, it's called short stay, but it basically means that you go to a different country and stay there for 2, 3, 4 months, and you work there with the local agency. It's kind of like a collaboration, or like you have a mother agency usually, an agency in the place where you're based in, where you live. Yeah. And the 2 agencies collaborate and they kind of...
They both represent you. Just that country, that agency in the specific country, let's say in Tokyo, usually they're city specific. That agency usually knows the market more and they have the contact with the clients. So they manage you better locally than your agency ever could from afar.
Yeah, and it's kind of arranged in a way that they basically like borrow you as a model for this specific period of time, and then when you are there you can have already some jobs booked because people can see you on their website, or they can know you from somewhere else. Or if you're going for a second stay or something. Yeah, exactly. Or if you already worked with the clients before. But usually you go to castings in that country and then try, or in that city, and then try to get jobs there.
Yeah.
In this podcast, we're going to focus on the second one, the short stay, because that one is just better to talk about. You are in a different country for longer. There are more different experiences. It shapes you in a different way. After all, the direct booking is basically just another modeling job in a different country. It's not that much different from a job that you would have in your place. It's just in a different country. Also, me and Michael, we are not supermodels. We are not famous.
Definitely not.
We are something you would call an average model. For myself, I live out of modeling, but I'm still not super famous and get flown in all the time. I usually do the short stays.
And for me, like, we could say that my career as a model is kind of a lot of failures, or a lot of attempts and not much success. But we're gonna touch about that a bit later, I'm assuming.
But those are pretty much the both of the sides of average modeling.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we're gonna talk about why when we get down. I have a lot to say about it a bit later.
So, I asked Michael to do a list of 3 pros and 3 cons about traveling as a model. I did the same, and now we are going to get into that.
All right, so how do you want to do this? You want to do like all my pros and then all your pros, or you want to do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1?
I would do 1, 1, 1. So, you start with a pro, then I do a pro.
All right, so my first pros is probably the one that most expected, or the one that's the reason most people will do it, is that you get paid to travel. And there's a lot to say about that specific point, because it's the general expectation that you're so lucky as a model, you get to be paid to travel, you experience different countries, and they pay you. Then it is very true in certain situations, but it's also very far from the truth in other situations. For example, just me and Nat, I mostly travel to Europe. I'm signed with an agency in Milano, and I'm signed with an agency in Paris, and both of the modeling trips that I did, one was in Milano, one was in Paris. I stayed there for a few months each time, and at the end of my experience, I came out with basically $20,000 down the drain. That's like that's one end of the experience. That's like,
that means that Michael did not make money.
Exactly.
He didn't earn anything.
And for Natalia, it's quite the opposite, because she went mostly to the Asian market, and she came out with money at the end of her stay. It's kind of a good representation of the polarity inside of the market, where if you go to Europe, there's potential to make money in Europe. It's not a totally bad market, but Europe is kind of a discovery market, and it's a very specific high-end market where most people won't make money. If you get out of the bubble in Europe, you're going to make it big, and there's a lot of money to be made. But for your average model, for your average person that's going to go in that market, most of what you're going to get is deception. Because you go to Europe, and you see all these big brands. You go to the castings. I'm not even telling you. You go to not Tom Ford, because he's in the New York.
Tommy Hilfiger?
Yeah, you go to Prada. You go to Armani. You go to all these castings, and you see the casting directors that you might have seen and heard about before, and you walk in front of them, and you have all these experiences that are really cool. But at the end of your casting day, most of the time you just come home, and all you've had all day is rejections. That's the notion that you get paid for traveling. It's amazing, and it's true if you can make it happen, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, that's important. You don't always get paid for it. You don't always come out of this trip with a lot of money in your pocket. That's something you need to remember. Modeling is a very risky job, I would say, because you don't have a fixed income, and also is something that changes a lot with the season, with trends.
Yeah.
Like, you can be super hip, like your look as a model can be super wanted one season, and then you come back next year and nobody wants you for a job.
Honestly, if you have the chance to do it. If you have the means to do it, don't put yourself in the shit to do something like that. It's a really nice experience, especially it's a lot safer in terms of money if you go to Asia, because usually Asia you can manage to get guaranteed.
Okay, I have to jump in here, because you're also talking a lot from personal experience, and I, from my personal experience, can say that also in Asia, I had a lot of roommates that didn't make money.
But the thing is that at least you don't have to pay money back.
Yeah, that's true.
In Europe, they usually don't do that. So me, I went to Europe. I found my own. I would have saved money if I took the model apartment, but I was going in an optimistic state of mind, and I paid for my own apartment. And then, yeah, obviously you stayed in Paris for 3 months, for example. Like, the cost of life in Paris is absolutely ridiculous. So at the end, exactly. So at the end of my 3 months, I was unlucky. I didn't get a single paid job while I was in Paris, and I came out of my 3 months with $12,000 Canadian dollars under. I didn't make any money. I just spent 12 grand just like that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that with Asia, in most cases, I don't know if that's everywhere like this, but at least, yeah, from my experience, what other people told me, what I know from other models, etc., usually you don't lose money, meaning that the agency covers your costs and then you pay the agency back from your job.
Yeah.
So, for example, the agency pays your flight ticket, pays for your apartment, for transport, etc. And then the money that you owe them is deducted and at the end of your stay from your earnings.
Yeah, and then usually sometimes you have like a guaranteed earnings, but that's the details of the contract. It's different for every
that's a
people.
different thing. You can also get a guarantee contract. Those are usually handled though to models that are already more experienced and that are proven to be successful in the market. So for me, when I traveled the first time to Asia, I didn't have a guarantee contract because that's a normal thing.
I don't know if it's different. Oh no, because it's pretty much the same price to fly from Europe to Asia than Canada to Asia.
Yeah, but guarantee, I mean, in a way that is they still paid for my flight ticket, etc.
Yeah.
But guarantee contract means that you have a guaranteed amount of money that you have in the contract. So even if you don't earn enough money by jobs, you will get this amount of money because you had to come here, you had to travel here, you had to spend those 2 months here that you could have been at home and work at home, for example.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a compensation for your time.
Yeah.
And that usually when you travel as a first-time model, like a first-time traveling model,
they don't always offer that.
They don't always offer it because it's just a bigger risk for them, and they don't know if you're gonna be successful in the market.
If you're gonna be a good return on their investment. Basically.
Exactly.
All right. So to round up my first pros, get paid to travel. Yes, it's great and it happens. And if I can make a recommendation for like potential models out there. If you have the chance to travel to Asia with a guaranteed contract before going to Europe, absolutely do it. One, you're going to get the experience from what it is to see if you actually like this. And you're going to deal with the rejection and all the pressure that's on you when you're abroad, not knowing the language, all the new things that are there. So you're going to get that experience and you're going to potentially get money. And that's going to help you a lot if you end up going to Europe after. So if you have the choice between Asia and Europe, I personally would say go to Asia first because it's kind of like...
It's safer.
Yeah.
Safer financially.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting that you say this. Oh my god, what is this? I have a weird ringing in my ear.
I don't know.
What the hell? Okay, if I'm talking too loud, that's because I'm deaf on one ear now.
That's not concerning though.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say this because I often hear from people in Slovakia giving the advice to models that travel for the first time to go to a European country.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not so much different from your country, and it's not so scary.
The clash is a lot.
Yeah,
less
because
intense.
it's much more difficult to work in a country where you don't speak the language, where you are so far away from your family. Often when the models travel to European countries, like, okay, Slovakia is in Europe for those people who don't know. If you travel to European countries or countries that are close to you, your family can come visit.
Yeah.
You don't feel so alone and helpless and suddenly thrown in this new world where you have to find your way.
I guess it's different for me because in Canada, if you fly to Asia, if you fly to Europe, it's basically the same.
Yeah, for you it's the same. For you there's no difference.
The flight difference is different. Like if you fly to Paris, it's 6 or 7 hours, but then if you fly to Tokyo, it's a 14 hours direct flight, and that's if you're lucky enough to have a direct flight.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of difference, but at the end of the day, you're still on the other side of the planet, so.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so proud of myself for this because my first flight was when I was around 4 years old, and we went to Mallorca for a vacation, but I don't remember anything for that flight. The only thing I remember from that flight is looking outside of the window and thinking that the fields outside, that those are countries.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so cute.
Yeah, me as a kid, I turned to my dad and I asked him, Daddy, what is this country and this country and this country? And he was like, yeah, so this is a this is a cornfield, this is a sunflower field. And I'm like, what? I thought it's countries. And, he just tried to explain, like, honey, the globe you have at home, it's a smaller version of our Earth. Our Earth is way bigger. We're not flying that high.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so I was super proud of myself when I went for work the first time like this as a model abroad, because my basically first flight, if we don't count this flight as a 4-year-old, was directly to Tokyo by myself.
Yeah.
So it was a layover flight. The flight itself was, I don't know, like 17, 20 hours. I came to a country where I couldn't speak the language, and it was my first modeling contract with a really small agency, so they had nobody to pick me up from the airport, and the meeting place was the modeling apartment already, so I had to get from the airport to the modeling apartment in Tokyo.
For anyone that's been to Tokyo and that didn't have someone picking them up at the airport, getting from the airport to downtown Tokyo is kind of confusing. You get there's a lot of ways to do it, but when you don't know and you're not used to the whole metro system and everything, it's confusing AF.
Yeah, Tokyo has one of the most complicated and biggest metro systems. When you look at the map of Tokyo's metro system, it looks insane. It looks like a big spider web. They have different metro systems, not just one, and then the lines change, and it's just super complicated.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 companies that kind of run the metro, and they have disagreement, but at the same time they work differently, and they all have their different color codes or their letter codes.
It's different companies that run different types, like parts of the metro. And back then, it was in 2015 when I traveled the first time. Back then, there was way less English in Tokyo that there is nowadays.
Yeah, in the past few years, they've been having a lot of adding a lot of English to the signs and the directions to make it easier for tourists, because there's been more tourists in the past few years going to Tokyo. But in her time, that was not actually the case.
In my time, when I arrived there, everything was written in Japanese. Everything.
Yeah, and I had when I went to Tokyo to see her, I had an okay time. I had a great time in Tokyo. Yeah, it was last year. Finding my way around was fairly easy, just for the fact that there's signs in English, and also now with technology, like on my phone, I have a thing that just translates everything instantly.
Yeah, so. You have a translator app on your phone. You have Google Maps. But back then, 5 years ago, my Google Maps was not working in Japan. I didn't have a translator app that I could take a picture and translate things. Everything was written in Japanese, and that was my first modeling trip. And now try to find your modeling apartment at night.
Yikes.
I have no idea how I was able to do this, but I was, and I'm so proud of myself for this.
Slow. Cup. Alright, so we're still on your Pro 1, right?
My Pro is similar to yours. I wrote down that you get to travel to destinations that would be normally harder to access.
Mm-hmm.
Most people from Slovakia, for example, don't get to travel to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Because it's very expensive.
Anywhere, yeah. Even from here, it's expensive. Really, really expensive to fly to Tokyo. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's true. You get to experience things without really you pay for it, but at the same time, you don't really.
And when you travel to Asia, the cost is covered.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might not make money, but you also don't lose money.
Yeah, exactly. So okay.
So what's your first con?
No, you want to do con now?
Mm-hmm. I want to jump from pros to cons.
Okay, so my first con is that you can never really be prepared for your first modeling trip. As much as you talk with your agency, as much as you do research online, as much as you talk with other models, you're never, ever ready for that first modeling trip. There's so much new experiences, and there's so much that happens during a modeling trip, whether it be work-related or cultural experience-related in that country. You just can't be prepared, and as much as a lot of it is positive experiences, I never ever experienced as much rejection and disappointment as when I was on a modeling trip.
Yeah, that's something I also have as a point written down later.
Yeah.
Well, just generally, I would recommend to not have any expectations.
Yes, exactly. Except that you're going to discover new stuff and that you're potentially going to have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it's for sure a good advice to ask people, if you have friends that already traveled as models somewhere, to ask them how their experiences were. They may tell you things that will prepare you better. But yeah, you can never be really prepared unless you get there and get to experience it. Okay.
First con.
Yeah, my first con is that you're apart from your family and friends for a long time, and all that in a new environment. Which basically translates to your homesickness is bigger than if you would go somewhere for vacation.
Yeah, because you're far away from everyone that you know and everyone that you love, and essentially you're alone in this very aggressive kind of scenario where you're there
because
for
it's
work.
for work. Yeah.
You're there for work, but also the emotions that you experience are either really high or really low.
That's true. You're either very happy when you get a job, like really something cool that you like, really cool work, etc., or when you get to meet really cool new people, and then suddenly it can change to you being very sad because
you lost a job, you got replaced on a runway show, whatever. Lots of things can happen.
Yeah, you generally hear a lot of no's, and just sometimes a yes.
Yeah, and sometimes maybes.
Yeah.
Those are the worst because you're like, you're holding your breath, and then most of the time it's gonna be a no.
Yeah, because you know you're competing with a lot of models, and they need to find this one person or this few people that are gonna fit their brand, their product, and it's not a personal thing, but you kind of feel like it's personal, you know. You always have that feeling, oh yeah, I could have done better, I could have performed better. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you do castings which involve acting for commercials, for example. You always, even I get that now all the time.
Oh yeah, of course.
After
I don't
casting,
think you ever stop. It's, I didn't prepare enough, or I wasn't ready. Or,
I'm generally a person that overthinks stuff a lot, and then I get back from net casting. And when I know I could have done something better, like this, for example, I didn't say right, or I could have expressed this emotion better, or if I have to dance, then, or let's say I could have done a different dance move that would impress more, or etc. For those of you who don't know, I used to dance for 11 years professionally, meaning that for the first 5 years I did ballet and I would dance in operas, etc. And then for the next 6 years, I did ballroom dancing, and that's the cha-cha, samba, jive, etc., and then standard, waltz, tango, and those things. Well, if you know Let's Dance or Dancing with the Stars, that's the English version of it, I guess. Yeah. Then you know what I'm talking about, and I did that in a competitive way. So I would compete, and I wanted to do it even more professionally. I wanted to take it to like teaching, but then I got health problems, so I had to stop. But this dancing experience still helps me a lot with modeling, because a lot of jobs involve dancing, especially in Asia. If you go to Korea or to Japan and do a commercial, they always look for models that can dance.
All right, pro tip. If you want to be a successful model in Asia, start dancing now.
It's so true, though, because most of the commercials I did in Asia were somehow related to dancing.
Yeah, I don't know. I never went to Asia, so...
Yeah, not all of them, but a lot.
Yeah. All right.
Your next pro.
My next pro... I think this one is a bit personal for me, but my next pro is that it forces you out of your shell.
Oh my... We have the same things written down.
I think the experience is similar for a lot of people, or at least on these points. But let's just say that before traveling for modeling, I was not as outgoing as I am today. I feel like my first trip when I went to Paris for 3 months was a big change in my life. It forced me to have interactions outside of what I would usually do when I was here. I don't know, I'm just really grateful for the experience, because I know how, at the end of the day, it made me more into who I am today. Just experiencing things and having to interact with people in a different environment, in different conditions. People
from different countries, with different personalities, very different mentalities.
Exactly. And the way you do things, whether it's out partying or whether it's out working.
Partying is the first thing that you said.
Okay. I didn't have a lot of job in Paris, okay? So what do you think I spent my time doing? Since you're abroad in a country where you have no ties to, like, obviously, if you're working a lot, your first responsibility should be working. But in my case, we were getting towards dead season in Europe, because August in Europe, everyone takes off and goes on vacation. So the market is really, really slow, like a bit before that. And during August, there's nothing.
I don't understand why did you
I don't know,
go during that time?
Because nobody told me. That's another thing, okay? Inform yourself on the market and don't trust people blindly.
Yeah, inform yourself which are the high seasons.
Now, those influence the amount of work tremendously. So I had a lot of time on my hands, so I just ended up just exploring and having fun. And let me tell you something about Paris. It's really nice to visit, but I would not live in Paris.
I think a friend of mine that I met during a modeling trip would disagree with you.
Really?
She loves Paris. A lot of models love Paris.
I'm sorry, Paris smells like piss.
Oh!
Anyone that lives in Paris cannot disagree with this. There's the amount of public urination that happens in Paris is incredible.
Okay, but honestly, the same goes for New York. New York, some parts of New York smell really bad.
Yeah.
And we were there during winter when all the things were less smelly because they weren't exposed to heat and sunlight.
But I've been to New York in the summer, and I've never had this experience where I was just walking down the street and I just kept smelling, having these whiffs of piss every corner.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that's really nice about Asia. Both Tokyo and
it's so clean.
Both Tokyo and Seoul, they are super clean.
Yeah, no. I don't know.
Oh, wait, actually, okay, this is also something that changed in Tokyo from 5 years ago and now. 5 years ago, Tokyo was way cleaner than it is now.
Really?
I think it's just a Western influence.
It's possible, yeah.
Us stupid Western countries.
Tokyo is still very, very clean.
Yeah, it's still very clean compared to other countries.
Like, you walk in the street and it, unless you go to those very specific side street where they gather garbages, if you walk on the main street, you're never going to see anything on the floor. It's sparkling clean. It's amazing. Seriously, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's very different also to Istanbul, for example. I was in Istanbul for 1 month as a modeling trip, and Istanbul is a country of big polar opposites. Mm-hmm. So you have a country. What did I say? Istanbul is a country. Istanbul is a city of big polar opposites. You have places that are super beautiful, fancy, clean, just perfection. And right next to that, you will have a street that's very poor. There's just garbage everywhere. There's a lot of street cats that will tear apart the garbage. And yeah.
Well, let's just say that if I had the choice between living in Paris and living in Tokyo, I would definitely live in Tokyo. But yeah, honestly, if you've never been to Japan, go to Japan. It's amazing.
It's very different, very interesting, and it will change your view on certain things a lot.
Yeah. And as much as it's a very traditional country, they also have a lot of clashing elements that you're going to encounter in Tokyo, which is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, Tokyo or generally Japan is very weird, and especially one thing. They are very conservative when it comes to sex and sexuality. They won't talk about it. They will not show much of it. But then, when you go to some special places in Tokyo, or even watch animes, there is something called anime porn.
Yeah.
And it's hyper-sexualized. All the video games, the technology, all the nerdy things, the gadget, etc. is hyper-sexualized.
Nerdy things?
Yeah,
it's not nerdy. It would say possibly dorky.
Okay, sorry for my vocabulary.
Yeah, because nerdy doesn't relate to that at all.
Okay. So let's go to my pro, because it's very similar. I wrote down, you grow and mature a lot very quickly.
Yeah.
Definitely. It forces you to mature because you are in this new environment. You don't have your family around you. You need to suddenly get shit done by yourself, and you need to really quickly adapt and learn.
Basically, if you don't have your shit together, you're in big trouble.
No, don't say it like that. No. That's not what I was trying to say. I want to say that people that also may not be as mature, they get maturer.
It forces you to get your shit together.
Yeah, people that might not be as grown up or as experienced, grow up and get very independent thanks to this modeling trip.
Yeah, definitely self-growth.
Okay, your next con.
you're always in competition with a million other people. And
True.
And that's also like a difference depending on the market that you're working in. Because I know that in Asia, there's kind of a respect towards the model where agencies usually don't import like a truck ton of models every season. And, like every agency is going to bring in like 10 or 20 models. And then but then you have like a few, like 8 or 10 agencies that are going to import like 20 to 30 models each. So and that's going to be your competition for that season.
Yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't say 10 to 20 models, depends on the agency a lot. And obviously that doesn't mean there's just 20 models in the whole city. There's a lot of agencies.
Well,
usually.
20 models per agency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's more regulated.
Yeah.
So the amount of models coming in is more regulated.
Yeah.
They kind of regulated same as like the money market is. So there's no inflation in models.
In Europe, it's like during Fashion Week in Europe, everyone is there. Every single model that wants to go and can go is gonna go. So that creates an environment where you go to a casting and there's literally 150 people in front of you waiting in line, and it's like that every other castings. So you have thousands of models competing with you for the same jobs. And it's just mind-boggling the amount of people. During Fashion Week in Paris, you walk around, or in Milano, it's the same, like it's kind of the same thing. You walk around and you can see the models. You're just like, oh, that guy's a model. Oh, that girl's a model. Oh, we're kind of going in the same direction. We're probably going to the same casting.
You have the same though also in Asian countries. But that's because in Tokyo, okay, I'm talking a lot about Tokyo because that's the city I probably also like the most, and I spent the most time in. Like the most time of my modeling stays was in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So yeah, both Japan and Korea have Korea, I don't know exactly the stats. Okay, Japan, because there I actually know the statistics. They have very low immigration rates.
Yeah, that's true.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's around like 20-ish people per year. No,
it's even worse than that. It's like 3 people per year.
I don't know. I saw a statistic.
Keep talking. I'm going to Google it right now.
Okay. So there is a handful of people per year that immigrate to Japan. So the only people that you will see are Japanese, Korean, and other Asian people. Then tourists, and those are really easy to distinguish. Usually either families that travel, or then the second kind of tourists, like young backpackers. And then you have the models. And you just see the difference. You can distinguish them very easily. And it's not because the models are pretty and the tourists are not pretty, but you see that the models, for example, will walk in the straight direction, looking like they need to get somewhere really fast, where the tourists will be walking around, looking around. And also, usually if you work in the modeling industry, you learn to distinguish models from other people. They just usually look a certain way, carry themselves a certain way. They have this modeling spirit about them. You're still looking at the statistic?
Yeah, I can't. I can't find it.
Honey, just let it be.
No, yeah, okay.
You don't believe me?
It's okay, but just a statistic to let you know. The percentage immigrants to Japan accounts for 1.76% of the population. Under 2% of the population is immigrants.
Of the whole population
of the whole
Japan.
Population.
Yeah.
You want to know the one from Canada? It's mind-boggling. I think Canada's like 40%, okay? So it gives you like a good idea.
Also, you know what the side effect of this is?
What?
That people will kind of assume that even if you're not a model, like Japanese people, that you are a model.
Yeah, that's true. Just because you're white.
just because you're white.
Bluntly say, just because you're white.
Okay, I don't want to body shame anybody, but that's just how it is. Usually when you're white and skinny.
Yeah.
When you're white and skinny, they will think you are a model. So my sister, for example, got asked like if she's a model also by several Japanese people. And I'm like, no, it's me here. Just I'm the model. And the absolutely funniest part about this whole thing is that Japanese will not only think that you are a model or immediately ask you if you are a model. If you say yes, many of them will ask you to take a picture with them. It's so funny.
Yeah.
They think you are some kind of celebrity only because you're white and skinny.
It is
It's cute though, because
Yeah.
they do it in a really cute way. They're like, "Oh, can I take a picture, please?" And then they're so happy about it, and it's so. Yes, it boosts my ego, but I'm also then trying to talk with them a little bit, so it's not just like, oh yeah, you took a picture with me and you think that I'm famous, but I'm not. Like, I don't want to use the people. I don't want to use them.
Yeah, and no, in general, like I've had really, really great experiences with people in Japan. Like I loved everything about my experience, like the people, like the culture.
Okay, third pro.
So my third pro is that it forces you to meet other people. And I say that in the sense that me, before going out, obviously I live in Canada, so to start with, I'm in a country that's already very diversified in terms of ethnicity and in terms of beliefs.
Almost every Canadian is a descendant of some other country.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
people that immigrated, and everybody basically comes from a different place, but not from Canada.
Yeah, but when you travel for modeling, I didn't stay in a model apartment, but I did get to interact with models that were from other country, and you know, you make friends that are not from your place of origin or that are not from the same belief systems that you are, and you get to have these conversations and, you know, learn about these different lifestyle or these different beliefs or these different origins, or just through the people that you meet. And that in itself is really amazing, especially if you stay in a model apartment. You get dropped and you're forced to live with people that are not necessarily from the same country as you.
Yeah, true. It's kind of like comparable when you're an exchange student and you live with other exchange students from different countries.
Yeah.
You're kind of forced to live with them. It's the same kind of experience, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that there is one group of people you will have trouble interacting with or trouble to learn more about them, and that's Russian models. Because
Uh-oh.
usually, I don't want to sound bad, but this is just so true. Hey, even Russian models told me this, that they agree with me. Russian models, Ukrainian models, Belarusian models, they kind of group together and they stay within their group. They stay within their bubble. They don't really interact with other models that much.
Mm-hmm.
If they are not forced to, but out of their own will on a casting, you will see all the Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian models together, maybe one or two exceptions.
Yeah.
And then all the other countries. So you get to meet people from Australia, from different places in America, Canada, South America, different places in Europe, from Africa, like from all around the world. All these people talk with each other, exchange experience, cultural beliefs, etc. It's very interesting. And then there are the Russian models.
They're not all like that.
They're all not all like that, but it's also a language barrier thing, because a lot of models from those countries, from like Russian speaking countries, they don't know English that well, so they stay within their group, so they can
It's
speak
more comfortable.
Yeah, they can speak Russian with each
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
So you will hear Russian from that bubble, and then all the other people in the other bubble will speak English with
Just
each
English,
other.
yeah, because it's kind of international, or at least most people kind of understand or speak it a little.
Yeah. I had also some good experience with Russian models, or Belarusian, Ukrainian. I'm gonna call all of them Russian now for the sake of making this easier. I had also some good experience with them. I had two really good roommates. One was from Ukraine, one was from Belarus, and then I had also later a roommate that was from Russia, which I had first some problems with, but then I guess because we were forced to live with each other, we can kind of forced to resolve our problems. But most of the other models I interacted with, I either had a very platonic relationship, like when I had a job with a Russian model, it never really went further than small talk, compared to when I had a job with models from different countries, I actually formed friendships with, and friendships that last until now. Like Dante is a really good example. That's the guy I met Michael through, and it's a model I worked with in Seoul. And
funnily enough, Dante is Canadian, but he's from Russian origin.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, he was born in Canada. So.
Yeah, but the models that were hanging out with Dante were also, like the Russian models were kind of cooler, because they would speak more to other people. I don't know, like the ones that I met at least.
Yeah.
I don't know all the other models he hung out with. That was your third pro. So my third pro is that every day is different. And you get to work with very creative and talented people. Especially the art part is just very interesting. You know, when you're in an office, you will just be in that office all the time. I mean, your tasks, they change, but it's not as diverse, and every day is not as different as it is in the modeling job. Like one day you can shoot a fashion editorial. Mm-hmm. The other day you're gonna do a commercial for, I don't know, ice cream.
Yeah, that's true. The range of jobs and the different types of jobs that you're gonna do, it varies tremendously. You always work with different people, different locations, different clothes, different brands.
There are definitely jobs that are very repetitive. Catalog shoots, e-coms, like people that are modeling will understand this. It's a bunch of clothes and you're shooting them in the same boring poses. And you spend like 12 hours shooting only these almost same looking clothes in the same poses. And sometimes the catalog shoots, usually you get rebooked for those. So when you get a client that likes you for catalog shoots, you get multiple jobs with them, which is great because you earn money. But then it's again very boring work.
Exactly. Editorials are fun.
Yeah. Editorials are great. I love editorials.
We love editorials.
But catalog shoots can be also fine if the crew is interesting and fun. And like I on one catalog shoot, I did several shoots for them, but for this brand, they had a stylist who was a gay guy. And the first time I was shooting with them, and we were shooting 2 models, and the first time we were in the studio where we didn't have much space to change. And this is also a thing with Japanese. So in Slovakia, no problem. I'm changing my clothes. I am half naked on the streets. People looking at me. Nobody cares. Like, I don't care either, but... I know this can be problematic for some people that are not so open about nudity as I am.
But in terms of the work, they're gonna let you do it. But in Japan,
they will be super careful and covering you. And
you're like, no, it's okay. I'll just take off my pants. No.
It's okay. I can change my t-shirt here in front of you. I don't care. You don't have to leave the room. Yeah, so they were super, like, they were already coming to me super sorry, like, oh, sorry, sumimasen, Natalia, sumimasen, but we don't have enough room. We're like, do you mind changing in front of the other model? And we're just looking at each other like, yeah fine. Whatever. We've seen each other so many times naked because we shot already different shoots with each other. So, like, fine.
It's like, yeah, whatever.
And then we needed to switch some pants because, I don't know, they fit me better than her, and hers were better for me or whatever. We had to switch pants, and just to do it differently, the gay stylist needed to help us because those were hard to put on. They were a bit complicated. And
the amount of time I got wedged by a stylist is unbelievable.
Yes, you also need to get used to people touching your boobs and stuff. I do a lot of underwear shoots, and the amount of breast massages I get unwantingly because people are trying to position my boobs and like make them look the best, just grab my boob and place them in the bra, right?
Hey,
all the time.
Your boobs always look great.
Thank you. Yeah, but anyway, before he would change our pants, the person that was coordinating the shoot was just like, don't worry, he's gay. Cute. And I'm just like, I wouldn't care. I'm like, that's fine.
I wouldn't care anyway, but thank you for the information.
Thank you for the info.
Alright, so third con. My third con would be that it can be expensive and it can take you away from projects or stuff that you were already kind of working on in your life.
Well, that relates to the risk factor of traveling generally.
Yeah, but I want to bring a very specific point with that one because it's something that I observed when I was in Europe. Usually the models in Europe are very young. Like you're going to get between 16 and 20. They're like very young faces, and new faces is always a big thing. So you tend to have a lot of very young models.
Yeah, same in Asia. I feel like the models in Asia are even younger because they really like that super young baby face look.
Yeah,
so
and that creates a gimmick where models are gonna pause or drop out of their universities or their studies whenever they get the opportunity to travel. Because when you're like a model, the opportunity to travel to Europe, like Milano or Paris for Fashion Week and stuff like that, it's such a big deal, and it's showed as such a big deal that you might take life decisions out of your current progress, like, and do those things. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, life experiences, traveling, it's amazing. But for me, for example, I'm very glad that I finished my university before going on a modeling trip. And I'm not saying that it's bad for everyone. Like, obviously, there's people without university degree, and I'm not saying that the university degree is the norm that you should aim for. You can, especially nowadays, it's very easy, not easy, but it's very possible to be successful without having a degree. And even some people will say that having a degree is a waste of money. But
oh yeah, for those people from Slovakia who are listening, in countries like Canada or the United States, you pay a lot of money for university.
Yeah.
University, like state universities, are not for free, or not just, you don't pay only for the books, but you pay a lot.
I think we're looking at statistics recently, and for a community college, which is a state college, which is kind of like the bottom of the chart, or the thing that you go by default.
The cheapest thing.
Yeah.
The cheapest university.
It's probably going to cost you in tuition fee. That's without books, without living, without anything else. It's going to cost you, like, on average between $3,000 and $4,000 per year.
Per year. So if you're studying for a master's degree for 5-6 years, that amount of money times 6.
And that's kind of the cheapest. Then if you go to university like Harvard and stuff like that, it can go up to like $30,000 per year.
I was listening to a TED Talk there, and they were saying that the top universities like Harvard.
Mm-hmm. Harvard. Yeah.
Oxford. Those cost around 50,000.
Yeah, it's
just for a bachelor degree.
Yeah, it's a ludicrous amount of money. So, like, if you interrupt those progressions to go on a modeling trip, it can be a great decision. Like, in the short term, it can bring you a lot of money, and you can make a career out of it if you're successful. But it can also be a very detriment to your path in life.
It definitely affects your life, and you have to take life decisions if you want to do this full time.
Exactly. It's just kind of a consideration that I feel is sometimes taken lightly, because the opportunity to go and hit those market as a model is often inflated.
Yeah, also agencies will tell you, oh, you are young now when you're still young and wanted, you need to go, etc.
Which is not wrong.
Which is not wrong, but also creates a problem about self-image. That's a whole different problem by itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
For me, I wouldn't say it was a con for me, but I had to make changes in my studies for it. For example, 1 year I didn't travel at all as a model, and I was studying in Vienna at that time, and I stopped my studies there, and I switched to external studies, and even that I then tuned down to just part-time studies, because I just couldn't keep up with also studying and then working as a model. Because I know a lot of people, they also, when they are modeling trips, they also study during the time, so they will have a school book on castings, etc. But I'm, for example, a person that just has really problems concentrating, but there's a lot of people talking around me, etc. I need to have my own personal space for studying. Plus, usually, I was very successful, I would say. Like, I was working a lot.
Yeah, she was the bomb in Asia.
No, but I was working a lot almost every time I went to Asia. Almost. There was one time I didn't work that much, but yeah, almost every time I went to Asia, I was working a lot, meaning 60, 70 hours working weeks. And then when you just come back, you're so exhausted that you can't concentrate on studying anymore. Yeah. For me, that wasn't possible. Plus, you work flexible hours. So, you might have a job that ends at midnight, and then you have to wake up the next morning for another job at 5 a.m. Yeah. And, be there at 5 a.m. Not wake up, but usually you have to be there early.
You're running crazy hours.
Yeah, because, you have to be there usually earlier, especially for girls. It takes a lot of time to do makeup, hair, blah, blah. Yep. Generally, the modeling industry, I feel like, is easier for guys than it is for girls.
But you also get more money, so...
Yeah, that's true. Girls usually work more, so they get paid more.
On average, girls get paid more than guys in the modeling industry.
That depends on the type of jobs you do.
I'm talking from experience. Like, I don't have statistics on my hand.
Sorry, you're talking about Europe, but that's again something that's different in Asia.
North America as well.
Yeah, okay, Europe.
Asia, I don't know.
Yeah, Europe, North America, I would agree. In those places, girls get usually paid more, but in Asia, at least from what I was comparing my salaries to, I had shootings where I was paid less than the guys, and I was there even longer. Was working more hours than they did.
Really?
Was shooting more clothes.
Yeah, because depending if you're paid per job or per hour, it like for a guy, if he has like 5 outfits and you're paid for the job and you get the same money like as a girl, but you have 20 outfits, you have 4 times the amount of outfits and you get paid the same because it's a per job salary, then
the same with Daniel, like the model that I already mentioned that we both know, me and Michael, the shoot where we met. I was shooting. I was like a 13-hour shoot, 2 days even for me. One I was like 13 hours, and the next one was 8 hours. I was shooting so many clothes. I don't know how many. I lost count at some point. And then Daniel comes in, shoots like 5 outfits, and gets out of there.
You can see she's very bitter.
No, but that's something that happens all the time. We just work way more than male models usually do per job. I mean, like during one job, you usually work more as a girl.
So your makeup takes like 5 times the amount of time.
Yeah, plus you need to be there always, not always, but usually earlier because the makeup, etc., etc. And plus you were talking about universities. Something that's a big difference between male and female models is that for female models, the age when you are on the top of your game or when you're wanted as a model is younger. Yeah. So this problem you have with you need to stop your university to start modeling is something that women will have more often than men, because I would say the average age for a male model, I don't know exactly the statistics, but they are like 25 plus. And for female models it's under 25. So you start at the age of like 13, 14, and then like 25, you are already considered old.
Yeah, like usually, even when you're hitting 22, like your agents start telling you that you're getting old for the industry. And as a guy, they're kind of like, well, we'll see in 5 years how you age. Maybe you age well, you can still model. Like it depends.
I got told that already many times. Like I, for example, when I'm in Asia, I'm not saying that I'm 22, or back then I was 21. I'm not saying that I'm 21. I'm saying that I'm 19, 18.
Yeah, they lie on their age.
It's also a thing about modeling, and that brings me to my third con. There is a lot of bullshit in the industry.
Oh, yes.
People will try to use you if you don't pay attention.
Always remember that everyone has their own interest in mind in this. And as much as your agents can be nice, at the end of the day, their goal is to make money for the agency.
Yeah, after all, it is a business. And it is a very competitive business where you fight, you battle for jobs all the time.
Yeah. And it's always in the simplest things and in the things that you don't necessarily think about when you start. Like the quickest example that I have in mind is that I recently realized, because as a model, you're an independent worker, right?
Yeah.
And in countries like Canada, for example, as an independent worker, I can put a lot of my expenses, my work expenses, and my taxes. And that reduces the amount that I have to give to the government at the end of the year, because it's considered like money that I had to pay to be able to work. What I realized is that as a model, you're an independent worker. So everything that's plane tickets, apartments, food while you're abroad, all of this, you can kind of put in your taxes and use that and to pay less taxes, because you need to pay those amounts to be able to work. And then it got me to thinking that when agencies buy plane tickets for you, and then, for example, if you go to Asia and the agency in Asia pays your flight ticket for you, and then you fly there and you pay them back for that flight ticket,
then they can get that money back from the government.
Because they have the receipt. So if they have a system where, because it's work expenses, they get tax deductibles, but at the end of the day, you still paid for that flight ticket. You're the one who paid for it because you paid them back, and you don't get those tax deductibles because you don't have the receipt for the flight tickets.
Yeah, so they make money on you paying them back the money that they paid for the flight tickets.
So there's these little nuances that I didn't know when I was younger, and now I realize, and I'm just like, it's mind-boggling how you get...
There's generally a lot of money the agencies make with you as a model that's not the money that you get from jobs. Like modeling apartments, for example. example.
Yeah.
Or like travel expenses. If the agency has a car where all the models go to castings together in one car, they will overcharge you for that car. And you have no other choice than pay that money, because otherwise they just won't make a contract with you. The industry is very fucked in a way that you as a model are very replaceable.
Yeah. So when that may be just out of my ass, but when I was in Europe, I always went with the policy that if I have the money to be able to pay for my own apartment and my own plane tickets, I'm gonna do it myself. And that's something I felt, and it's entirely subjective. But I felt that because I didn't owe the agency any money, it affected how much they worked for me to work. Because I don't owe them any money, then
so they will not try to get you as many jobs.
Yeah, they're gonna push other models that they invested in because they actually spent the dollars on them, and push them more for jobs than me, for example, because I don't owe them anything because I paid for all of my shit.
Yeah, that's something I also learned during my trips, that on one hand it may seem better for you to pay your own tickets if if you pay your flight, because you can also find a cheaper flight, or it's usually better for you when you find places money wise. But then again, I also experienced that when you do that, depending on the agencies, they will get less invested in you and trying to push you less, because they need to get that money back from the other models.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
for you're just there to make some extra money for them, because they didn't have to pay for the other things.
Yeah, for example, if there's a model that's there that doesn't owe them any money, and then there's another model that owes them $2,000, they have the choice between sending one or the other model on a job. They're gonna send the one that owes them money, because they're gonna get that money, and they don't have that chance of losing money on their investment. Whereas if they send you to the job, one, they only make their ratio of the money that's signed on the contract. So let's say it's 20%, they get the 20% of the money, and then that's it. But if they send the other model, they get 20% of the money, and then it also allows them to pay them back for the expenses that they advanced them.
Yeah, true. So yeah, that's one thing. Finances, generally models get fucked over in finances.
Oh yeah.
Because it's such a paradox. Even though we as a models are the face that's on the pictures, the face that's in the commercials, we are, as you would say, the star of the show. We are the ones that end up drawing the shortest straw. We often don't get the pictures. The client has the rights for the materials. So I, for example, and this is something that is also more in Asia than in Europe, until now, I still don't have a lot of pictures and videos from jobs I did. That's why I started taking backstage photos again. I didn't do that for a while, but I started again, so I have at least something to show it. Oh yeah, I did this job also, because I don't have the materials. If you do an online job, like for an online store or something, you can find those pictures by yourself. But if you do a catalog for a magazine and then you travel out of the country, like, you can't get that magazine if it's a local one, for example. Or if you do a billboard, like, you don't get that picture often. And I saw so many things that I did, so many really cool jobs and like things that I would love to share. I just don't have the materials. And another thing that is interesting for Asia, and that is completely different in North America or Europe, in the Asian modeling market, they are not so okay with social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, etc. Often from clients, I get the pictures, and then they will tell me that they don't want me to post them on social media, and if I do, I would have to pay a fee, or they could, it would be illegal, or because it goes against the contract with them, etc. Which is so weird, because they fear that people will screenshot them and they share them or use them for their own products, etc. That's a legitimate fear. That happens on the internet a lot, that pictures or materials get used without copyrights from from the author that people just steal shit because it's easy on the internet.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate fear. But again, then I can't post those pictures, and I would love to post them. I would love to show them on my Instagram. And in North America and Europe, it's completely different. There, when you go on the casting, there they understand the value of Instagram and the reach a model can have, and they understand that when a model posts a picture on Instagram and that model
Free marketing.
exactly, when that model has a lot of followers, it's extra advertisement completely for free for the product, for the company. So in America and Europe, they will even ask you on castings to write down your Instagram.
Just so they know how many followers that you have. Because
Yeah.
nowadays, it matters. So, to come back to the point, you're such a special pumpkin, and yet you're so fucking replaceable.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's something that also fucks with your mentality.
Yeah.
Because from the outside, from your friends, from strangers even, from your family, modeling is seen as something so special. You are so cool as a model. Okay, there are different kinds. Some people think that modeling is not a real job, blah, blah. You're bullshit, you're cheap, you're whatever. For girls, you're a slut because you do underwear and stuff like that. But generally, modeling is seen as something that people want to do, as some like really cool job. But they don't know how nameless you actually are in the industry for all the other people that work in the industry.
Yeah.
If you are not a supermodel or like, you know, really well known.
The amount of models that are going to work for one season and then just disappear it's astonishing. And I think it's been something that's more and more a thing of like modern modeling industry. Because I don't know, I watched or I read an article about the models that were there 50 years ago, 70 years ago, like the icons of like they were modeling for multiple years, and they were just respected and recognized, and the model was respected. Whereas now the model has become kind of a reflection of the fast fashion industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's true. I heard that from also models that I met some models that are already way older and experienced this industry back then. They were also saying that they would get paid way more back then than they get paid now. Because of the fact that, oh yeah, if you don't take the job, I have the next model already ready, waiting to take it, wanting it.
Exactly. So I don't know. It's the industry's. It's as much as it's amazing in multiple ways. It brings you a lot of opportunities and a lot of possibilities and a lot of experiences. It's also an industry that's really prompt to abuse and really fucked in a lot of ways.
Especially from the mental side. Like you get told a lot that, oh, you're not perfect enough. You get like this is also some so weird. Like models are seen through the eyes of others as these perfect people. Yet in the industry, they're always told how, oh, this is too long. This is too short. This part of your body is ugly. You need to work on that. You need to do this. Or, you know, weight loss. It's not just that agencies or clients will tell you that you need to lose weight. No. You need to lose weight in specific places. So, you need to lose weight in your face. You need to lose weight on your hips, but not on your boobs, just on your hips. Or you need to lose weight on your belly. Yes, they want to have a big belly, big belly, a thin waist. But no, don't lose weight on your boobs.
Boobs are important.
Okay, in Asia, actually having smaller boobs is a bit better, but yeah. But you know where I'm getting with this?
Yeah. Well, fortunately enough, the industry is kind of moving in a more wholesome kind of direction
It's
in the past few years, especially with the arrival of the plus size models and the brands going either like eco-friendly or more respectful of workers, materials, environment, animals.
You're right. Like really recently, this has started to get better again. I feel like we've already experienced the peak of
Trash
awfulness, trash, and the peak of just mistreating people. Yeah. And now we are getting into a better direction again. Yeah, you're right. Also, when I compare my trips, I feel like the last trips, I was told less to perfectionize my body compared to the first trips that I did.
Mm-hmm.
I really remember that the first trip in Tokyo, for example, like it was insane how they were taking measurements and stuff and how you had to maintain everything and how they would tell. I was lucky to have like the perfect body for Tokyo at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But my roommate, for example, I know that she had a big struggle with like they wanted her to lose weight in really specific areas of her body, and that's so hard to do because if you start working out, it's hard to just work out one part of your body but don't change anything on the rest of your body. It's nearly impossible to fit the standards they want from you. So that has become definitely better over the years, especially with all those debates going on with body positivity, and also on Fashion Week, for example, in Paris, they have changed the minimum size there's allowed on Fashion Week. So
you can't be too skinny.
Yeah, you can't be anorectic skinny anymore.
Exactly. That was amazing. It actually happened when I was in Milano, I think, and it was still in the silver lining at that time, so it wasn't like as strictly enforced. But if you booked the job, you had to get the doctor appointment to get like the paper that says that you are healthy shape.
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I know that I have that included in my contracts to Asia, that I have to have a doctor's appointment.
But you never did it?
But I never did it.
Yeah. I feel like that's not uncommon. You want me to sign your paper? I can attest that you're in good health.
Yeah, okay, so we talked about money fraud, or just generally, the things that we have to deal money-wise with. Like mentally, yeah, you hear no's a lot. You have to cope with this whole perfect but imperfect dilemma. And all this, as I said, you're working long hours and flexible shifts, meaning that you often work on sleep deprivation, and that forces you kinda to learn to sleep everywhere you can.
Yeah, naps are wonderful. Naps are wonderful.
It's crazy how bad I sleep at home, meaning that I need to have a very quiet room. I need it to be dark and stuff. Like, I am a light sleeper at home.
Yeah.
And I get woken up really easily. But when I'm on a modeling trip, I'm able to sleep everywhere.
Pass the fuck out in the middle of the street.
Yeah. I sleep in metros on the way to the job. I put a little notification on. Like, I look on, Google Maps makes things so much easier now. Yeah. I look how long it is approximately gonna take to reach my destination.
10 minutes? Okay, I'll put an alarm at 8.
Yeah, I put an alarm at 8 minutes. So on that 8 minutes, I really sleep. Like, I sleep everywhere I can because I'm working so much usually and just you have never enough sleep. And also the thing is, if you don't, it's not just work like me doing photo shoots or video shoots all the time, but it's also castings. Mm-hmm. If you don't work, you have castings, and you have multiple castings a day. And all the castings are in different locations, so you have to travel through the city a lot.
Moving. Yep.
And just generally moving around through the city is very exhausting. Yeah. Even if you are in a car, it's other models talking around, so you have constant noise. You still have to like move around a lot, and
So I think that kind of wraps the pros and cons. I feel like we made it sound like a really negative and awful experience.
True.
But at the end of the day,
but that's because we ended with the con. We should have started with cons first and then ended on the pro.
But absolutely do it. Even if we made it sound like it was kind of a terrible thing at some point.
Oh my god! I just realized I have a different con that I didn't say.
Oh no!
How is it possible? I was trying to jump from one to another, and what the fuck? Okay, but that's kind of like something that you just need to keep in mind. It's not travel for fun. It's mainly for work. Yes, you're gonna travel to really cool places usually that you wouldn't see, but you are there for work, so you won't possibly see so much of the place. You will spend most of the time in transport, on castings, on jobs, but you don't have so much free time. And even if you, for example, have a day where you don't have that many castings, you end up with just like 3 castings, for example, and then you have the rest of the day free, you still have to be on call, because at any minute there can be a casting coming in and your agency can call you and tell you, oh yeah, you have to be here and here, you have to go now. Yep. So you can't just leave the city for a trip because you need to be on call. And even on weekends, weekends are mostly free, but you can have a job on a weekend, for example. Like, you don't need to be usually on call during weekends, but usually when you have a shooting that's a 2-day shoot, they will try to put it on a weekend or on a Friday and Saturday. And my sister that visited me during my last trip to Tokyo, during my last trip, I've never had people coming and visiting me before, but last year on my latest modeling trip, both Michael and my sister came to visit me, and that was so amazing. It made the trip so much better.
No homesickness.
Yeah, because it just helps so much with missing other people. So Michael came in the beginning of the trip and my sister came in the end of the trip. My sister was able to see as much from Tokyo within the 2 weeks she was there as I was able to see in my first 2 months.
Yeah.
I was there for 3 months, but comparing wise, the same amount of trips she was making during 2 weeks, I made during the whole 2 months.
Yeah, because you're there for work. You have other shit to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Responsibilities.
And also,
responsibilities.
Also, I didn't really come out of Tokyo that much. I did some trips to little places around Tokyo, usually to the same place because that was close to the beach, so I could see the beach a little bit. But yeah, usually I stayed within Tokyo also. That's why we went to Disneyland, both with Michael and with Max.
Well, we're gonna keep Disneyland and Disney Sea for another podcast. I think this one's already like lengthening pretty long. If we start talking about Disney, we're gonna spend the night on it. Trust me, she's a Disney girl.
Not a Disney girl. I have a love-hate relationship with the Disney company itself.
She loves Disney.
But the Disney parks are great. No, okay, I'm not starting. Okay. Just one thing.
That's a trap. Run.
If you ever visit Tokyo, you have to go to Disney Sea. That park is amazing.
And keep watching your podcast to find out why. Not today, but maybe tomorrow.
Okay, for all the people that have nothing to do with modeling, here are some travel benefits that you might not expect from traveling. So, improved problem-solving skills. We actually already talked about this because this is something that's both for modeling trips and for traveling in general. I mean really traveling, not going to Croatia and staying in a all-inclusive resort and just spending the whole day at the beach or next to the pool.
Or Cuba for North America.
And then I read an article in Forbes magazine. It renews the sense of energy and creativity, redirects your mind to concentrate on what is really meaningful to you. Which I kind of, I feel the same. When I travel, I get this sense of creativity, but I don't have time to actually be creative because I have to work, so it's a bit frustrating. But then when I come back, I feel like I really want to do shit for myself now, work on my projects, and I get this new boost of energy.
Well, traveling, no matter what you do, even if it's for work and situation, it takes you out of your bubble. It takes you out of your routine. So just being out of your routine and kind of changing your regular basis makes a tremendous difference. A tremendous difference.
You get so many more new impressions that can spark new ideas and just get you into new projects or also redirect you to things that you might have abandoned before.
Hi.
And then something that was also in Forbes, it boosts happiness and satisfaction. Life feels more fulfilling. There is the sense of freedom that most people desire. This doesn't apply to everyone. I know people that are just introverts, like really big introverts, and love their little bubble and being at home, which is something that I love being at home. I love being at home in my little place, I love it. But then after a while, I get fed up with it and I need to go out in the world and explore.
I'm one of those. I'm very comfortable at home and I can stay home. Like, we're kind of experiencing it right now where we just quarantine and we're not quarantined, but we have to stay at home, social distancing. And we stay at home most as possible.
Corona again. Corona will be in every episode.
Hopefully not.
Okay, we basically touched on almost everything. last time I said, oh yeah, this episode was maybe a bit longer than usually, and here we are talking way longer than last episode, but whatever.
It's okay. I think we kind of went off topic a lot, but hopefully it ends up being some like interesting.
We told you in the beginning that we are tired, and this podcast might not be as perfect or well planned and directed as usually we would desire.
Should upload a version with all the digression and a version with straight to the point.
Oh yeah, I have to set up a Patreon account, and on the Patreon account, I will upload
the no bullshit episode.
The no bullshit episode, and then on my actual Spotify account, I will upload the one that's cut to the important parts.
Good job, baby. Keep your mind on the money.
Okay, I asked on Instagram my followers again a few questions. They would like to know about this topic. I thought we would have more time to answer all of them, so I'm just gonna ask
try and go
a
quick
few.
on it.
We're just gonna go really quick on this one.
I'm ready.
My sister was perfect again in this. She sent us a lot of questions because she was like, yeah, the last episode, it was a topic that most people can relate to. Yeah. Past relationships is something a lot of people experience.
This one's a bit more specific.
Yeah, and this one is something that most people, when we say traveling as a model, they don't even know what we mean by that. I tried to explain it, but it's hard to picture if you're not in the industry. If you don't experience it, yeah. So she was like, yeah, in case nobody sends you any questions, I have this big list of questions prepared. God. And the first question she put was more of a suggestion.
Yeah.
Describe in what shitholes did you live?
Oh boy. I'm actually good. I'm okay. I didn't live on any shitholes. You talk.
Well, again, we are not supermodels, and when you travel, you usually travel to cities that are pretty expensive to live in, like Paris, New York. Tokyo is also super expensive to live in. So you try to save money whenever you can. So you end up living in really shitty places. Like the modeling apartments, they don't look nice. Maybe sometime in the past they actually look nice, but so many models lived in that apartment before you. That they just look like dumpsters.
Like 300 years ago is probably nice,
Okay, how does it make you feel when you go to a casting and you are surrounded only by extremely beautiful people?
Well, I don't know for you. For me, it was not necessarily a big deal. I think what was more affecting me, it's seeing the experience and the confidence in people. Because the looks, it's whatever. Like at some point, you kind of know that like the designers or the casting directors are gonna pick whatever fits their needs for the moment.
I feel like it when you start modeling and you see it for the first time.
Yeah.
You suddenly see all these like really, really fucking pretty people. You are a bit like, oh my god, like I can't compete with these people. But then after a while, you just notice that it's really not like they are more beautiful than you are, but it's more what fits the brand better, what fits the product better,
exactly.
What look.
At the end of the day, you can't let that kind of thing intimidate you. You just have to be yourself and be confident as much as you can, even if you have to fake that confidence at some point. You kind of need to do it because the confidence is that.
Confidence is really important.
Key. It's everything. It's everything.
Sometimes even if you don't really fit the look they are looking for, sometimes they will go with another model. Let's make it easy. Let's say they want models that are blonde. Sometimes if you have even brown hair and you go there to the casting and you surprise them with confidence, you pose good on the, often on castings they will take like pictures of you and you need to show what you can and stuff. You can still sometimes win over the people and get the job even if you don't fit the look with your confidence, with your charisma, with your character.
Exactly. Just by amazing.
So it's not all about the looks. No. Like modeling industry, it is very superficial, but it's not all about the looks. Nowadays, people start to look more for personality. That's the word. For personality over looks.
Thankfully,
yeah. What's your diet when you're traveling? So I know a lot of models do diets or specific diets, but I wouldn't really call it a specific diet. I'm vegan now, and I was plant-based already last year. So just generally, I was trying to eat healthier. Not saying that veganism or plant-based diet is necessarily healthier. You can eat very unhealthy as a vegan person too. But usually when you are vegan or vegetarian, you learn and educate yourself more on nutrients, so you eat healthier as a result. Just generally eat healthy and don't overeat, don't eat too much fast food.
I'm one of those lucky people that can eat whatever I want and not gain weight. So for me, it's mostly about avoiding fat, just so my skin looks better. But that's it for me. It depends on the person.
Depends on the person, true.
You know your own self better than anyone, so just adapt your diet depending on who you are.
Seriously, Michael, when I met Michael, he was living on candy. He would have a bag on candy and pasta. Sorry, yeah, true. He would have a bag of candy for breakfast. And he was skinny as shit.
Yeah, baby.
Do you like fashion? For me, you know what's interesting? Modeling made me like fashion. I was never really interested in fashion.
I hated fashion before starting modeling.
Yeah, but when I started modeling, I started to love fashion.
I'm not saying that I'm the biggest fan of fashion nowadays. Like, I'm definitely not someone who's gonna be always chasing the avant-garde and stuff like that. But like,
you have a lot of like really old clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
In your, closet that you don't even don't even want to wear because you know that they just look bad, but you will wear them out of comfort because you're too lazy to buy new stuff.
Wow.
It's true though. We go to vintage stores, you look around and you say, oh, this is a cool piece, but you don't buy them. And me, I go and, oh, this is a cool piece, and I end up buying both.
Yeah, it's because most of the time I don't wear clothes that, like, crazy clothes or whatever. I'm a very standard shirt and pants kind of guy. So for me, like, I can appreciate a nice jacket or a nice shirt or a nice pair of pants or whatever, but even if I have it, I'm probably not gonna wear it most of the time. So
you're one of those people that look at fashionable people and are like, oh, this looks really cool, but you're never gonna wear it yourself.
Unless it's a suit and it looks fucking amazing. Then I'm gonna get it just to be able to flap it out once in a while.
Yeah, and the last question was if I was ever frustrated, or we were ever frustrated that we couldn't really travel the country because we had so much work. And this is something we already talked about, but I would just end this with, during my last trip, I was supposed to go to Japan before Corona started.
Yeah.
Corona ruined my plans.
She should be in Japan right now, actually.
Yeah, I should have been in Tokyo at this moment right now. And I made such a perfect plan that this time I'm gonna spend some extra days either in Japan, or I'm gonna use the fact that I'm in Japan, and combine it with traveling just for myself. So we had this plan that we would go to Bali because it would be super cheap from Bali then to go to Japan. A lot of models that are in Korea or in Tokyo, after they finish their modeling work for 2-3 months, then they go to Bali, or before they go to Bali and then go work. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, yes, this year I'm gonna be one of those models. I'm gonna use this trip also for personal travel, and Corona came. But yeah, it was my plan to do more personal traveling because I was definitely frustrated by the fact that I couldn't see much from the country, or just generally didn't have that much personal traveling experience as I could have had.
Yep.
But before I wasn't able to do it also because I was still trying to keep up with school. Also something, now I paused my studies, so I was actually able to do it. Before I was still like, oh yeah, I could travel for myself, but I have to go back home and then, study. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've reached the end of this episode. It was quite a lengthy one, but hopefully it was interesting. If there's still people at the end still listening.
Guys, if you're still listening, you are heroes. Props.
Because we're tired, we're distressed a lot. We're talking about a lot of nonsense that's not related to the subject.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk about this topic because it's something that, yes, maybe this won't interest so many people, but for those people that are interested in it, it might help them actually in a lot of
That's
things.
true. I think we covered a lot of information and a lot of stuff that is, I would even say vital when it comes to traveling for modeling, and that you don't get told. Even if you do research online, you're not going to find that kind of information. Now I'm going to go turn my brain off and go to bed.
Now we're going to go to sleep. So yeah. Cheers!
That was loud.
RIP headphone users.
You say you're stronger now, that you've seen it all before.
Ďalšie video bude zase také normálne po slovensky. Pardon.